Another week of football brings the highs and the lows. One of the best players in fantasy football went down with an injury. We need to talk about all these players that were panicked on. I'm going to give you a panic level of 1 to 10 and talk about actionable steps moving forward in your fantasy leagues. Do me a massive favor. Go ahead and smash that like button to show some love and subscribe if you find any value in today's video. I got a like goal of 200 likes. With your help, maybe we can get there. And here's what's awesome. If you're struggling with your fantasy team, or even if you're killing it, I'm going to do a giveaway for a 2025 team playbook, which is a customized team review that we do here at Fantasyland. So all you need to do to enter is number 1, like the video, number 2, subscribe, and number 3, type "oh no Puka" in the chat. And then on tomorrow night's live stream before Monday Night Football, I'm going to make sure that we announce a winner. All right, let's dive into it. This is painful for me. Puka Nakua. I don't know how much more of this I can do this year, guys. I don't know how much more I can do. Look, obviously it's not a season-ending injury for Puka Nakua, but I had a great chance to win this week in one of my home leagues, the one that's up for $10,000. And Puka Nakua was my best player, and he goes down with an injury. I don't know how many more injuries I can deal with in fantasy football. This year has felt like hell. Am I the only one? I mean, I've been playing since like 2001. But it feels like this year has been more harmful to my mental health than any other year. Puka Nakua obviously goes down with the injury just, I think it was like 10 minutes into the second quarter. So it was very early into this game versus the Baltimore Ravens. Then he decided to come back into the game in the second half, but they didn't target him a single time when he came back into the game. You could see he wasn't really himself. He was trying to work on the sidelines, and we weren't sure if it was a foot, if it was an ankle. And then he didn't have another catch, but he was in there for blocking duties. So reports after the game from Sean McVay stated that he has an ankle injury, and Sean doesn't know at this point if he'll be ready for next Sunday's game in London versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. So that's both from Schefter, from Mike Garafolo. It's not looking great for week 7. I would go ahead and say that there's a better chance than not that you will not have Puka Nakua in week number 7. And you might be saying, well, hold on, Zach, like, how can you say that? I mean, let's be realistic here. I mean, he came back, he played the entire game. Yes, he came back and he played the entire game. However, we often see this with ankle injuries, right? There's a certain level of adrenaline that flows through a player, and you don't really realize how significant the injury is until it's 24 hours later and you're sitting at your home and you're just feeling the pain in that ankle. So look, I don't have anything to officially report on this. If I was a betting man, first off, I'd stop playing fantasy football because I hate it right now. But if I was a betting man, I would probably say Puka Nakua is not going to be present for week 7 of fantasy football. And then here's the worst part about that is not only will you probably not have Puka in week 7, they face the Jacksonville Jaguars, but you also have a bye in week 8. So you're probably, if you're a team like me that is struggling to make the playoffs in the Flock League, you're going to be without Puka Nakua probably at least 2 weeks. All right. Jacksonville Jags in week 7, and he'll have a bye in week 8. Now, desperation pickup to play instead of Puka Nakua would probably be Jordan Whittington. That is a name that I would definitely monitor as a Hail Mary play. Should we see no Puka Nakua? We've seen plenty of games where, last year he kind of stepped in for this team, weeks 4 and 5, where he scored 12 and 15.9 PPR points, was targeted about 9 times per game in those 2 games. Those are the games without Puka Nakua as well. Obviously, now they have Devontae Adams, so things are a little bit different. But, at least the bright side for Puka Nakua is they didn't really need to throw the ball when he came back in the second half, so there could be some hope there. I'm not telling you that he's not going to play. I don't know that yet, but I'm just betting against it. I mean, Devontae Adams wasn't that great in this game either. He only had 4 catches for 39 yards. It's just that, obviously, Puka didn't look like himself. So the most likely outcome here is that you're not going to have Puka Nakua both for week 7 and week 8, obviously, with the bye week. So that is a painful, painful miss to have on your roster at this point. Okay, let's talk about Garrett Wilson, who obviously played in the London game versus the Broncos. Patrick Surtain locked that down, didn't he? Wasn't a great game for him. Doesn't help, by the way, when your starting quarterback, Justin Fields, has 45 total passing yards. You see that? 45 total passing yards on the day. That's never a recipe for success for Garrett Wilson, is it? He had 8 targets, caught 3 of them for 13 yards. And then afterwards, he actually left the game. There was this weird whole thing going on with the Jets offense, by the way. I mean, Jeff, I agree with what Jeff was saying. 2-minute drill. They had a chance to get into field goal range. They didn't call play. No one, obviously the Broncos didn't call a timeout. It kind of, I agree with Jeff, like it didn't feel like they trusted Justin Fields to throw the ball in the 2-minute drill. And that led to like Garrett Wilson, before the play was even over, just walking off the field, that he was done. He had some very important words to say to his head coach as they were walking off the field. He's pissed. He's not happy. And then later on in the locker room, they asked him about this injury because we weren't sure if it was like a knee injury. We weren't sure, at some point, was it a knee? Was it a hip? We end up finding out later that it's probably a knee injury that Garrett Wilson is dealing with. And right now they're going to be waiting on MRI statuses, but this is actually what he had to say, a little snippet of what he had to say after the game. So basically, he's not really giving anything away, but he says, just pray everything comes back good. I don't know how I'm feeling. He's not giving us any hints on exactly what the injury is. So there is definitely a potential for Garrett Wilson to miss some time. Now, here's the concern for Garrett Wilson is if this is a multi-week absence, he will miss week 7 versus Carolina, then week 8 versus Cincinnati, and then he has a bye in week 9. So I don't know what the severity is just yet. I'm not claiming anything. I'm not putting anything out there, but there is a possibility that he misses the next 3 weeks. That would be a huge, huge, miss in your lineup, if you will. So definitely not ideal, but we'll have to monitor that as we go. I would probably put the panic level 6 out of 10. I'm pretty concerned. That's a really important part of your roster. Hey guys, appreciate y'all for being here with me. Do me a massive favor. Go ahead and smash that like button to show some love. Subscribe if you enjoy this content. And also keep in mind that if you do subscribe and you like it, we're going to do a giveaway for a team playbook. And on tomorrow night's stream, before we head into Monday Night Football, we'll announce a giveaway winner. So make sure you've subscribed and hit that like button. I've got a 200 like goal. I think we can hit it together. Okay, let's talk about Marvin Harrison Jr. Panic level. We kind of know what's happening with Marvin, right? I would say the panic is a 5 out of 10. I would say he's guaranteed to miss next week. It was a pretty clear concussion for Marvin Harrison Jr. All right, you can see his head kind of hitting the floor right there, right? I mean, the way that his head kind of popped into the floor. Obviously, he didn't come back into the game. He had a nice start to the game, right? 2 catches for 32 yards, and then that happened very early on. I bet he would have had a very good game. Jacoby Brissett actually looked a lot more competent than anything else that, the Cardinals have had this year. But again, when you have injuries like this type of concussion injury, 9 times out of 10, that receiver is missing the next week, especially if they didn't come back into the game. So I would be shocked, genuinely shocked, if Marvin Harrison is back next week. Excuse me. So do not anticipate him in your fantasy lineups. Okay, let's talk about Ken Walker. I know what all the Ken Walker owners are going to say. How in the world is Zach Charbonnet getting used more than Ken Walker? I understand why it's frustrating to you guys, but this team has committed to being a split backfield, and they just keep committing to that every week. I don't think it's going to change. So the panic should probably be a 7. What do you guys think? Tell me down below. What's your panic level out of 10 on Ken Walker? For me, it's like a 7.5 out of 10, simply because you could have drafted Charbonnet or Ken Walker this year, and it probably would have given you the same results. That's what it feels like right now through 6 weeks. 6 weeks is a very healthy sample size too. You can see this is back-to-back weeks where Ken Walker, 10 carries and 1 target, 11 total touches. Zach Charbonnet last week had 11 touches as well. This week, 13 touches, right? So it is a definition of a split backfield, as split of a backfield as a backfield can possibly get, right? It doesn't get more split than this. So, you have absolutely got to completely change your expectations for Ken Walker. Of course, you can look to potentially shop him if you want to, but honestly, I would say Ken Walker, it's probably over at this point. If you had any expectations of him being like a top 12 name, right? He's a flexible name at best, but, not someone that you're thinking is going to win you your league at this point. Let's talk about Amarion Hampton. Now, you might be confused. Why are we talking about Amarion Hampton on this video? Well, because we got some very concerning news before the games on Sunday that is leading me to believe that the injury is more serious than they originally led us to believe. I don't know how many of you guys know this, but when Amarion Hampton first suffered the injury, they told us that he wasn't going to miss more than 4 games. There was a report that said he won't be out for more than 4 games. There's also a report before the game that Hassan Haskins was going to be the lead back. So I don't know how much we can really trust these reporters at this point. But then before the games today began, it was reported that Amarion Hampton, this is Mike Garofalo here who's reporting this, isn't expected to be out for the season, but is on track to be sidelined for more than 4 games IR minimum, right? So that's really concerning when you think about the Chargers. Because, if we go and we look at the Chargers schedule, so you missed this week. Week 7, 8, 9, that would be 4 games versus Tennessee, right? So then you're thinking, okay, would he come back versus Pittsburgh or Jacksonville? Well, if they're telling us he's projected to miss more than 4 games and the bye week is in week 12, you could be without Amarion Hampton until week 13 versus the Las Vegas Raiders. That's a realistic timeline right now with what we're hearing with Amarion Hampton. So if you're a team out there, I've got a home league team where I'm 3-3 fighting with Amarion Hampton, in my IR right now. I'm sorry, but it looks really rough right now. It does not look like he's coming back anytime soon. Jeff Mueller, one of our favorite doctors on X, mentioned, given the impact mechanism, this is another piece of intel that makes me think it's a fracture to the ankle, not so much like a strain. He says that or the defender's shin caused an impact tear of, some muscle. And he's kind of on the same page with me. Is this a week 13 return? We also heard reports throughout the week that the Chargers were trying to shop for a running back, right? And we thought, hey, maybe that running back is Alvin Kamara because, there were reports that Alvin Kamara, the franchise wanted to ask him if he wanted to stay in New Orleans or if he wanted to be traded. I almost guarantee, and I don't have any inside sources, but I almost guarantee that if right, the Saints were willing to trade Alvin Kamara and Alvin Kamara was willing to be moved, I bet you he'd be in powder blue next week. But obviously that's very unfortunate for Amarion Hampton. I would say my panic is probably 8.5, 9 out of 10. Like if you're not a team that is, 4-1, undefeated, up there in the wins, then you might be really struggling to make the playoffs with Hampton. All right, let's talk about Hassan Haskins. One of the hottest waiver wire pickups of the week. Didn't work out for Hassan Haskins. Obviously, there was a lot of unknowns because we didn't really know exactly which way this backfield was going to go. Was it going to go Vidal? Was it going to go Haskins? Was it going to be game script dependent? Right? There was a lot of things that we were concerned about. Now, reports came out before the day started that Hassan Haskins was expected to be the lead back. Man, these beat reporters, man, I don't know how many of these reporters we can really trust at this point because it was the furthest thing from Hassan Haskins' backfield, right? He had 6 carries and 1 target. His role didn't even change from last week, right? He had 6 touches last week. He had 7 this week with no Amarion Hampton, who took the storm and took that role heavily, right? Like with a firm iron fist. This is Kamani Vidal's backfield. He comes out this week, has 22 total touches, including 4 targets, almost 7 yards per carry. He looked fantastic. Thank God someone did against the terrible Miami defense. And he completely led the way. Obviously had the receiving touchdown as well from Justin Herbert. Now I would be cautious, labeling him some league winner. Next week he plays the Indianapolis Colts. That's a much tougher defense to go up against. But clearly between Hassan Haskins and Kamani Vidal, if you spent less and you got Kamani Vidal, then you are well rewarded because Vidal is the only name that you can even consider putting into your lineup at this point. Again, I appreciate y'all being here with me. Do me a massive favor. Hit that like button to show some love. In fact, if you want to enter into today's giveaway, we're giving away a 2025 team playbook, a customized team review. All you got to do is like the stream and make sure you're subscribed. So I appreciate y'all being here with us. And of course, you can buy that playbook if you aren't our winner on tomorrow night's stream by going to the Flock site and becoming an annual Mother Flocker member with the promo code LAND. All right, let's jump to the next name. And I think we need to have a serious conversation about Chuba Hubbard. I do not know truthfully, I don't know how you can go back to the way things were after what Chuba Hubbard has done in these last couple. Rico Dowdle, after what Rico Dowdle has done in these last couple of games. Now, yes, both of them have been very good matchups for Rico Dowdle, right? Week 5 versus Miami, and then Week 6 versus Dallas. I mean, that is about as good of two matchups as you could have in a row in fantasy football this year. But we're talking about a guy that last week, right, had 27 touches in a win. This week versus the Dallas Cowboys, 35 touches, 9 yards per carry, 6 yards per carry. Super efficient on the ground, in the air, looking like LaDainian Tomlinson out there, right? I mean, he actually told the Cowboys after the game they wasn't buckled up. He actually told them, buckle up your chin straps before the game. Revenge game for Rico Dowdle. 473 scrimmage yards over his last 2 games is a new Panthers record previously held by Christian McCaffrey. Rico Dowdle has turned into Christian McCaffrey. He has turned into LaDainian Tomlinson. Right before our eyes, he's turned into a fantasy superstar. And I just do not know how you take Rico Dowdle after what he's shown you the last 2 weeks. Granted, it's been great matchups. I totally hear you guys. But I don't know how you put this guy on the bench. I really don't. At worst case scenario for Rico Dowdle, it is a true split backfield in my mind, right? This is terrible for Chuba Hubbard owners. If you have Chuba Hubbard, yes, he'll still be involved. No, he's not going to be irrelevant. I would not be shocked if he comes out and he's the starter if he's healthy. But you have got to lower your expectations. This could be a Seattle Seahawks backfield 2.0. I really think that's a possibility. In fact, I would be absolutely shocked if Chuba Hubbard and Rico Dowdle aren't splitting the backfield just like Seattle is, right? I just don't know how you can keep Rico Dowdle off the field. What do you guys think? In fact, I want you to comment right now in the chat or down below. What do you think the split is going to be? Who's it going to be in favor of it, and what will it look like? For example, right now, I feel like it's a Chuba 50 and Rico 50 split across the board for the rest of the year. I just don't see how you put Rico back into the bottle after he looks like LeBron James, right? Obviously, he's not playing basketball, but you get what I mean, right? Now, obviously, great matchup, that helps, but man, if I own Chuba Hubbard, I'm panicking. I'm trying to see what I can sell him for before he comes back because I don't see how Rico's not involved at this point. Now, obviously, don't just panic sell him and get nothing in return. Get good value, but definitely be shopping him in the market. Let's talk about Quinshon Judkins. Now, Judkins had some really difficult matchups, and he looked matchup proof. Unfortunately, this week, we saw what the floor could look like in a terrible Browns offense, right? What's funny is if you look at his matchups since week 3 when he was named the starter, Pittsburgh was probably the most enticing matchup since that point, right? He had Green Bay, where he scored 16.5 points, 5 yards per carry. Detroit, where he got into the end zone. Minnesota, where he didn't get to the end zone but touched the ball 25 times. There hadn't been a single game where he started where he had under 20 touches until this week versus Pittsburgh. And for the first time in a long time, the Cleveland Browns showed us that if they're down in a game, they might go away from Quinshon Judkins. We hadn't seen that this entire season. So I'm not going to completely panic. He has Miami next week. That's actually an incredible matchup for him to bounce back. I'm going to put my panic level, I don't know, I want to be very realistic here, like 3 out of 10. I'm not very panicked at all. If this becomes a trend weekly, then I think we could potentially be more concerned, but it's certainly discouraging to see what his floor could be. Let's jump into Stephon Diggs, man. It felt like, oh man, Stephon Diggs and Drake May, they're in their zone, man. They're finally got this mind meld going on and nobody can stop it. Well, he comes out here in a very competitive game between the Saints and the Pats and puts up 28 receiving yards, just 28 receiving yards. That was it. 3 targets, 3 catches. Kayshon Boutte, 5 catches, 93 yards and 2 touchdowns. Demario Douglas, 3 catches for 71 yards and a touchdown, almost 2 touchdowns on the day himself. So you finally felt like, okay, we're eliminating the Boutte experiment. We're eliminating the Douglas experiment. And finally, Stephon Diggs is free to cook. That didn't happen. I mean, even I was fooled on this. I thought, wow. I mean, you can see the usage ramping up every single week from snap share to target share. 12 targets last week, 7 targets the week before, 100 yards in back-to-back games, and it just didn't matter, right? Because unfortunately, Kayshon Boutte and Demario Douglas are still going to be part of this rotation. So maybe we should pump the brakes on calling Stephon Diggs a top 20 wide receiver rest of season. Maybe he's more in that top 33 type of range. But it's going to be matchup dependent, right? It's not going to be every week that you can trust on Stephon Diggs to be a league winner for you. Unfortunately, they're still going to use those other names. Okay, how about Courtland Sutton? Now, I'll be honest with you guys, I don't want to dive too much into this one with Courtland Sutton. He came into the week as a top 10 wide receiver in fantasy football. Just, if you watch that game, and I watched that game, unfortunately, as a Bo Nix owner, the Jets were never really a threat. Even when they got the safety and they were up 11-10, there was not a single moment in that game where you felt like, okay, the Jets are really a threat. The Broncos need to air it out. From halftime onwards, the Broncos really were not dedicated to the passing game. So I would not be very concerned about Courtland Sutton. You've got really good matchups upcoming. The Giants, the Cowboys, the Texans, the Raiders. So there are plenty of opportunities for him to bounce back. My panic level is like a 1 out of 10, maybe a 0 out of 10. Last name I want to talk about here is Justin Fields. And, before we jump into Justin Fields, I appreciate you guys being here with me. Again, smash that like button to show some love. Subscribe if you like the content. If you want to be part of the giveaway, this is probably your last chance here to go ahead and make sure that you've liked it, the video, and that you subscribe to the channel. So make sure you don't miss out on that. I want you guys to tell me in the comments below who you're panicked about. Is there anybody that I missed? Let me know. I'd love to hear from the community. But the last player we do need to talk about, it's a little bit boom bust with this name, and I probably feel like it's going to stay that way. Justin Fields. 45 passing yards is an absolute joke. 45 passing yards. Now, to be fair for Justin Fields, there wasn't a single moment, if you watch that game, where he was comfortable in the pocket. The Broncos were doing a fantastic job putting pressure on Justin Fields each and every single snap. Now, what you've seen with Justin Fields this entire year is the garbage time has saved him. This is the potential floor when Justin Fields can't get it done in garbage time, right? You go back and you look at week 5 versus Dallas, a lot of that happened in garbage time. Miami, a lot of that happened in garbage time. Even Pittsburgh, a lot of that happened in garbage time, right? Pittsburgh was his best game by far, though. He and Garrett Wilson looked like they're on the same page. They made some great strides beyond garbage time, before garbage time. But this is the reality, unfortunately, for Justin Fields when he doesn't get it done, when he faces a legit defense that is going to shut you down. Here's the good news. Week 7 versus Carolina, okay, but week 8 versus Cincinnati. So there will still be plenty of weeks where Justin Fields is a startable name, but obviously we have to recognize that the floor might be lower than we were willing to admit earlier on. But guys, I appreciate you watching the video. Do me a massive favor, hit the like button and show some love. Subscribe if you like the content. And we will see you guys in the next video. And don't forget to enter the giveaway for tomorrow night. Join us on stream before Monday Night Football. We'll announce the winner. Nothing but love. Enjoy the rest of your day.